So select that text box that we have on our timeline. Again, you'll know it's selected because it'll turn white, and you'll see some of the features potentially showing up in your source monitor. And over here where we've applied some of this motion effects. What we're going to do is we're going to go to graphics, and then we're going to go to upgrade to master graphic. And then what you'll notice is that it'll create it right here down in your project panel. Now, if you touch this one right here, it's going to make a change on this one, which means you need to duplicate this, rename it, maybe rename it by your interviewees. So simply coming over here, duplicate, interviewee 2, and then you go from there. And then you can take this file right here, drag it onto your second interviewee. It'll have all the same effects that you put on the first one. Double click, change the name, and then go from there. Or name and title, technically, right? So that's how we can start adding some motion effects, so animating our text in our boxes, our graphics, using it again just like to repeat it, but not having to create it from scratch and make an exact to do like that. So you have those options there. Now, one thing that a lot of you have been asking is how to create rolling credits. So we're going to create rolling credits today. So what I want us to do is I'm going to trim this interview so it's not too long. So you can trim your interview too. And what I want us to do is to drag in the welder at the very end on our timeline. And put that at the very end of your interview. I don't want the audio from the welding. I just want the visuals. How do we get rid of the audio? How do we do that? Good. Right click, unlink, deselect. Make sure that your visuals aren't still selected. Select your audio and delete it. This is where we could have our ending music if we wanted to, or something like that. And real quick, while we're at this, on your computers while we're doing this, I want y'all to download the Animal Lab and the board part. So go into OneDrive real quick, start downloading these, and these can download while we're working on the rest of this stuff, please. All right. So let's go to this end clip right here. I want you to add another text box, just like we did. Graphics, new layer, text. It's going to add that new text layer here. Move it roughly. Put it somewhere in the center. And what I want us to do is start adding names. You can put whatever names you want. You're going to want to change the font size a little bit on some of these. But I want this to roughly look like we would have it in regular credits. So add all your names. I'm going to center mine. When's Game of Thrones coming out? Amen. Okay, so roughly get your names like this. You can organize it however you want, but get all your names in the text box like we have right now. Now what I want us to do is I want us to go to Window and select Essential Graphics. You're going to notice that this little Huya over here on the right side shows up. Now I want you to go to Edit. You should see at the top right up here is go to Edit. And when you select your text box, you're going to get some of those options that we didn't have before with creating a regular text box that we had when we created a legacy title. So you'll see some alignment and some additional options that you don't typically see in the source monitor when we open the effects control. So I'm going to center this on my page. Nope. You may have to resize. If we're working on laptops, you may have to resize some of these windows in Premiere Pro. So get this where you want it. And then I want you to click out of your text box, come down and click on your timeline where nothing selected, select the actual file of the text box, and then all you need to do is click roll. And then what you should see is that if you go to the beginning of that text box, hit spacebar, it's going to start rolling. If you want it to last longer, to go slower, zoom in, extend the time of that text box, and then you're going to see, so you can control the speed on which that rolls. So that's just one of the many ways you can start rolling stuff. Are there any questions on that? So to get to Essential Graphics, Window, Essential Graphics. Any other questions? Was everybody able to do that? Okay. Now, the part that we skipped over real quick was if you're over here in this Essentials Graphics panel again, on the left, you'll see that there's a browse. Within here, there are multiple templates on lower thirds, titles, credits, things that you could potentially use in the future. We won't be using it for these videos, but you have the opportunity to grab some of these, drag these on your timeline if you want some of these that are pre-created, and then start putting your information in there, and then start adding some of the features maybe that you want to add on it. But they have some neat little things with some animations that you otherwise would maybe take you a little bit longer to create. You can automatically use some of these. If you're looking for something in particular, you're obviously going to want to create it on your own. Okay. Once we're there, what I want us to do is go back into your window. I'm going to get rid of the Essential Graphics. No, it's not going to do that way. You can come up here where the three lines are next to Essential Graphics, close panel, and you'll get that space back. We're not going to use it right now, so you don't need it. But if you need it back, remember, anything that's missing on yours, you can typically, just like in InDesign, Photoshop, Illustrator, come down, use Window, and you'll get all these window panes that you can open up. So now what I want us to do is let's drag in that image, the plant writing image. And drag on that picture. Put your playhead on the picture so you can see exactly where it's at. So one thing we need to make sure we pay attention to. First, each we've already learned between iPhones, between the cameras that we use, between these images. If we double click on this image, do y'all see the blue bounding box that shows it's bigger than the frame? You can zoom out 25. You'll see roughly, if you can see it on mine, how much bigger that is. If we want to resize it, we just grab it in a corner and bring it down by size to get a little bit closer so we can get that image in there. Grabbing that corner is going to do it proportionally, and then you're going to have to move it up and down based off of what's going to be cut out based on the overall size of this. Before you ever drag an image like this in, before you drag in maybe footage from your iPhones, you need to first drag in, when we have an open Premiere profile like this, the first file that should go onto your timeline should be something that's representative of what the size that the majority of the footage will be, which for y'all is probably coming from where? From our cameras. So with those cameras, you drag in that file first. That's going to set the size of your video. From then on, anything else you drag in, you can resize. But you don't want to drag in an image first, because first it's typically going to be bigger than your footage, which means you'd have to scale up all of your footage, and you don't want to do that. If anything, the only thing we want to be really doing with our footage is scaling it down, scaling our pictures down, everything scaling it down. So we use our cameras. I think our cameras are roughly in the middle, a decent sized frame. Anything from your phones will most likely capture in 4K. It'll be a little bigger. We'll bring that down, and any images we'll bring down. So while sometimes or majority of times I discourage you from using images in your videos for what reason? There's no motion, right? One of the things that we go in the video production process is that if we don't have motion, video isn't appropriate. However, like I was talking with Meredith about some instance where there's one of the students she's covering has done a bunch of things. We have the potential to cover capture footage on campus or around campus. But some of her study abroad stuff, it'd be appropriate to include one picture to capture that. But with putting an image, a still image, first of all, I think it's kind of boring. What we have the ability to do is add a little animation. Any of y'all use Final Cut? So if you use Final Cut, they have an effect in there that once everybody figures out how to use it, they use on every single picture. It's the Ken Burns effect. What the Ken Burns effect does is it essentially does somewhat of a pan and a zoom in on the picture, adds a little bit of motion. And so we're going to do that with this picture, so it's not as boring, but I definitely want to use this in my video, and I'm not going to be able to capture footage of it. Okay? So make sure your image is resized. And I would say on your left and right side, make sure those blue boxes are right outside. As soon as you start seeing black, well, it's over the interview, so you won't see black. If you see black or if you see your interview behind it, then you need to make sure it's a little bit bigger. So we're going to do the same way we did with our text. We're going to add motion, but we're also going to, in adding motion, we're going to do it with our position and scale. So over here, make sure we're at the beginning of our picture. We're going to come up here into our source monitor. Make sure you have your effects control pane selected. And we're at the beginning of the picture. I want you to add position. So toggle that animation on and toggle the scale. Remember, this is our starting point. We want it to start at this size for the image. The next thing we're going to do is skip to the very end of the image where we want it to end. We're not going to put any keyframes in the middle there. So I'm going to grab my playhead, go to the end. And now what I want us to do is we need to set exactly what we want our photo to look like in terms of the position, the scale. So you have a couple options. We can first do it through our effects control. For scale, I want it to go a little bit more in. So I clicked over here on this numerical value, turned it to the right, and it zoomed in just a tad bit. Again, you don't want to make this drastic. I think when images move slowly, it's a much better effect versus images coming in and flying in and moving like that. So I did a little scale, and now what I want to do is a little position. Instead of horizontal, though, I want to focus on this girl in the front. So I'm going to come to the vertical position here, and I'm going to, when it works, I'm going to roll it down a little bit, but where the photo's still in view. So I've made 2 slight adjustments, and you'll notice with those 2 slight adjustments, it's also created keyframes for us. So if I go here, start back at the beginning of the image, you're going to get slight movement in your still image. All right, so I want y'all to play with that for a second. The other way, before I tell y'all to play with it for a second, if I click back on this and I want to delete this from how we started. The other way you have it is if you go to the beginning of your picture, we add position and scale, and then I go to the very end. I can also double click on my image over here in our program monitor. We'll get that blue bounding box. I can scale it up like I want to, move it like I want to, and if you'll notice, it's add those same keyframes. So depending on how you want to do it, you can do it both ways. For some of you may prefer to do it over in the source monitor versus effects control. Now, one way I've seen someone use this where I think it takes a still image and makes it look like it's video still is if you have something where you're going vertically or horizontally on an image, and there's multiple items. If you take a look at lynda.com, one of the classes that works on this kind of stuff right here has donuts. You go from the top to bottom, and what it really looks like is someone is doing a tilt on a stack of donuts, and on another one looks like you're doing a pan. So in some way, it's a way that, depending on what you have in the image, you could potentially add an effect that makes it look like you're still capturing video when you're actually not, and you're only using a still image. No, you don't need, well, you don't have to zoom in. As long as it's covering the whole frame, you would just start your position at the top, and then at the end, your position will be at the bottom. Control how fast it goes, and then it just looks like a slow tilt, or it's horizontal, a slow pan. Well, and we have some equipment. I just got about 10 to 15 boxes in my office yesterday of some of the new equipment that's coming in. So if you use some of that equipment, those are still designed to give you, I think, much more interesting shots on some of these gimbals and get beyond just a pan, but where you can start getting around and capturing different viewpoints of your subject. All right, so play with that and get your image where you want it at the speed you want it. Remember, slower is better to where it looks more natural, and I think they can tell a little less that you're doing that. How are we doing? Check on your downloads and see if you have that skateboarding. So it's called Board Park and your Animal Lab downloaded. If you do, I want to bring our Animal Lab into Premiere Pro, but do not drag the whole thing on our timeline. So I want you to double click it and get it up in this source monitor. Is it downloaded all the way?
And you said, you can be dramatic, you're fine. And then it turned out because I was
Honestly.
I had to wear a splint.
So don't add the second. You start on the second first frame, put it where you want it in the picture. Then you need to position it where you want it. And then you do that vertically and scale. It automatically has a frame, and then when you play it back from the beginning to the end, it will go down. The original point of the position to where you want it to go. Play with that horizontal or that vertical and that vertical position and scale it. Do what? Just have them download it and then bring the Animal Lab into your source monitor like I've done. All right, are we here? Good? All right. So what I want you to do is we're going to go in our source monitor and we're going to take a portion of this this clip and bring it in. So I want you to import the visual only, the video only from 118 to 127. Roughly 118 to 127.
Let's just use this footage for our video.
I think so too.
Was it supposed to go up?
We need to put it on the second video.
I understand how to do that,
So when you come here and you click on it, you're going to click, drag it where it needs to go.
oh, I don't have to press the button.
No. Remember, if you just insert, it's going to insert it in the middle of your video on your video one line. That means you need to set your in and out point on what you want to drag. Come over here to this top right here where it says drag video only, click, and then drag it exactly where you want it to go, which is on video 2, because all we're using this is as B-roll. $118 to $127. Roughly $118 to $127. I approve of the 8 and the 7. I don't like the 2. I go back to like the Z2 and then the little loop 2.
Well, in all your ones, the 8 is good.
Well, is there a real easy way to do all your ones the same height?
Not really.
All right, so what we're going to play with today, with these next 2 clips is speed duration, meaning slowing down, speeding up some of our clips. How can we possibly use this feature?
Like time lapse.
What did you say? Yes. So same thing you both said. You can use it as a time lapse kind of feature. Now, do you think that it would replace a time lapse? No. So I'd be careful on that because remember, when we extend the length of something, what Premiere Pro is going to do is add different clips in there to extend the time. Meaning an actual time lapse is capturing that footage and you're speeding it up. So I'd be very careful before you do something like that. But it can create a similar effect. How else can you use it, Amon?
I've used it to slow down stuff. That's really cool. Whenever you have like any kind of shots, you can slow down stuff that's happening really fast. That way you can kind of see like what connections.
Not necessarily smooth. What he's talking about is that say if they're doing something really quick and you want to actually capture it, you can slow that down to capture exactly that process.
And you can do something that I found called it's like when you click on the video with the double click, you can pull down on that menu and it lets you do a freeze frame. And so like I did a video where I was like there's people and I was introducing them with just like lower thirds and they were like dancing. And so they would be dancing and they would like pause on them like this and then the third would come up and then it would go in and people would pick it.
Yeah. So freeze frame, capturing still frames. Yeah. Any other way we can use this? What about the idea you have your track of music and you need to match it to finish it. And so instead of trying to insert extra B-roll or the length of the interview, and you just need a little bit more, and you don't want to have to input a whole nother B-roll clip, you can extend it just to the end of that, and then that'll help you match that up. So this is, again, all this is in the post-production. When you get there, you're like, I just need this for a little bit longer, or I want this to finish when this clip of this song finishes, and then as soon as that finishes, we'll start our next clip, and we'll go like that. So you have roughly these 3 ways that we've just talked about, the advantage of using slowing down or messing with the duration. So the first thing I want us to do is come over here, and I want us to select the piece of clip that we've put over here. And I want us to select this, what is it called? The rate stretch tool. So come over here to our tools. And our ripple edit tool is going to be the first tool that's on there. Click and hold and go to our rate stretch tool. So come over here, click and hold. You should initially, when you click on it, see the ripple edit tool, come down and grab your rate stretch tool. And then what I want us to do is I want us to come to the end of this clip over here, clip and stretch. And then I want you to go in the front and play it. Yes. So when we use the typical stretch tool, what are we doing with the actual clip? No. Including more footage. What we're not, whenever we use this this tool that we just talked about right now, we're not decreasing the length of the clip nor increasing the length. What we're doing is increasing how long that footage lasts. The duration of the footage. Two different things. If I decrease it when it has just the red bracket and the arrow, if I decrease it, I'm removing footage. And if I increase it, I'm including more footage based on that clip. Yes. So this is increasing the duration, slowing it down. And if you put it over here, what you're gonna, if you put your tool over here, you're gonna notice that we decreased it almost in half. 61.9 point. Oh, it went away. We've gone from 100% to 61.94%. So we've almost slowed this clip down in half. Okay, so this is one of the ways if you need to add just a little bit more. But what I want you to be careful is that there's some footage, if you try to do this, it's going to look like you're distorting it. So this may not work with all footage. So you're going to have to do it on some of your footage. You can see they're actually doing a technique. Had they done this a little bit faster, or maybe I think it's too fast in general and I want to slow it down, it looks somewhat appropriate to slow down a procedure like this. Maybe for the means of letting people view it a little bit longer, take more time, or to match something. Any questions? All right, the next thing I want you to do, I want you to import the board park. And I want you to import the whole board park footage. Make sure you go on video too. It'll also take it on audio too. And then I want you to go to that footage. So the next feature, or the next option we have is a speed duration tool, speed duration window. So right now we just use the Ripple tool. What was it called? We use the rate stretch tool. Now we're going to use the speed duration window. So what I want you to do is make sure that you have your selection tool selected over here. Select that, come over, click on your file, right click, and then I want to go to speed duration. And you're going to get this dialog that opens up. First thing I want us to do, I want y'all to watch this first, and then I'm going to have y'all go back and repeat it. So on this footage right here, this is this guy snowboarding. Has nothing to do with the interviewee, right? Okay, let's at least acknowledge that. What I want to do is I want to slow this down by 50%. I want to press OK. That means it's going to be twice as long. Actually, let's take a look at what it looks like first. So there's snowboarding. All right, I want that to go a little bit slower. Right click, speed duration, 50%. Press OK. You'll see that the length of the clip, it doubles, and it should. And so now you can slow it down. I think this is also how some people create those effects when they want it to make it a little bit more, it's a perfect word, a little bit more dramatic. You can do that. I'm going to press undo here. And I'm going to right click, speed duration. And what I want to do is I want to do it by 50%, but I also want to do, and this would be dependent on what the action is in the film or the video. If you can have the option to reverse the footage without actually having to capture anything by pressing this option reverse speed. Press OK. And then what you're going to see, and so now you have your footage going backwards. All right, I want y'all to do that with y'all's footage.
Maybe go back.
I want you to slow it down and make it go backwards. You have more options in here. We're going to talk about some of the more options in a minute. I want you to show two different ways. The first tool, the stretch tool we would use is if we know we want to go right to the end of the audio, instead of trying to get it specifically right in this speed duration window, we would click, grab it, pull it, and be done. So how you would use it, yes. That stretch tool, you're only going to use it, I think, really in one way. If you're trying to really focus on this clip itself and make it what you want it to look like, then I'm going to go through the speed duration window. Once y'all do that, I want you to undo that, and we're going to play with this again. We're going to explore some of the other features. I also, on your timeline, I want you to reorder this real quick. I want you to put the snowboarding footage in front. Directly after it, I want you to have the dissection coming in. This makes a lot of sense with the footage. And then I want you to have the image, and I want you to have these all back to back with no gaps in between the footage, but in that order, please. So with that in that order, let's come down here. I want you to right click on our snowboarder. Speed duration. And I want us to reduce it to, reduce the speed to 50%. And then I just want you to press OK. Ooh, as I was. We want this to go a little quicker. Sorry. Why won't you?
If I click on the FX part, it does that. Like I have to really.
Yeah, maybe I'll. Interesting. Never had a problem. Speed duration. Let's do this to 120%. We're going to speed it up. Now, say if we already had all of our footage done, everything's together, I mean, we have a ton of footage back here, we have everything moving. One of the things when we go speed it up or we start messing with the duration, you'll notice that there's some gaps if we do something like that. So what you have to do is undo that, right click again, speed duration. And what we have is if we did this to 120% again, we could do the ripple edit, which means it's going to shift everything over so you don't get that gap. What also you'll see right here is you'll see maintain audio pitch. That means if you speed something up or if you slow it down, it won't alter the voice of some, well, let's be clear. It will reduce the impact of that edit on the actual audio of the footage. So if you actually do this to a narration or someone talking to interview, you could do that. You would click maintain audio pitch, press OK, and then you'll notice that footage moves over. However, it did not move it over on that image. Interesting. All right, undo that. The last thing I want us to look here is go to speed duration. And I want us to go 50% again. Get rid of the ripple edit. What I want us to do is to come look down over here at these three options under time interpolation. What this is going to do is this is going to be how it makes some of the adjustments when it speeds up or slows down some of your footage. So when it has your initial frame sampling, that's going to repeat or removes frames to get your desired speed. Okay? Your next option is frame blending, which repeats frames and blends them together when needed to make it a smoother motion. And then you have your optical flow, which alters frames to achieve a very smooth results when it makes those adjustments. The last two options are something you're going to want to use when you're slowing footage down by a lot or something has a lot of movement. So for this footage, I think that I would probably try optical flow and see what that looks like. Press OK. And actually, I probably should have kept that ripple because it needs to move that over. Well, we'll do 50, optical flow, okay. Slows it down and it should help smooth out some of that. The best way to see how some of these effects is to go do it one way, see what it looks like, try a different way. You have some options to kind of go through and see how some things go. Any questions on that? All right, we have a guest speaker. Micah, you can show. Micah's going to show you how she did her trick. I don't know how to do it, so we'll let Micah show us. Micah, it's going to record whatever you say and do. It's going to record. Maybe they want to go back and watch it later on. All right, you're good?
Yeah.
So you tell them what you do.
Okay, so to begin, just find some random place. And you can do this two different ways. You can use graphics for a shape, or you can use legacy title. Honestly, graphics is a little more user-friendly, but I like the shape options of legacy title because I really, really love the rounded rectangle for introductions. So, slap a name on there, make it pretty.
You insert that through the legacy title?
Oh, no, this for type.
Text box.
Yeah, for type, I use the type tool. It's my preference. So whatever you want to do. I don't think the type makes too much of a difference. So once that's in the right place, good size font, we're going to bump that up to the next video track to V3. And then deselect, file, new, legacy title, square. And for this, whenever you're drawing your legacy title, you're going to want to keep in mind that we're drawing to the end point. So, usually wait, oh no. I'm really particular about my shapes. But anyway, so usually you do legacy title like right to the end of the lettering, but since it's going to move, you're going to want to draw this to the end point after the animation. So we'll say 2/3 to 3/4 of the way across the screen. Make it slightly opaque for beauty. Something about this shape is throwing me off. Oh, okay. I think I know, but yeah. And then,
Go to the
Where?
far left and that bottom panel.
okay,
Yeah.
wrong panel.
There she is.
Okay, cool. So put that on V2. Asshole. And honestly, I made my legacy title a little too small. So if you did it right and made it the right size, don't worry about it. But if I don't like how it's, you can see the clipping right here. So I'm gonna make it a little bit bigger. And then cool. After that, what I did is you could go back into the legacy title panel and make it bigger that way, but for this, I use, do what? Yeah, I use scale either way. And then zoom in, go to the very start, and we're gonna add a keyframe with position. Don't do anything with this keyframe just yet. Just put it there. And then go to the very end. Add another keyframe. And then you'll navigate back to the first keyframe by using these arrows. If I don't use these arrows and I just try to click in here, it'll usually create a new keyframe. And then that gets confusing. So just go back with that arrow. And then for this, you'll want to set the start position. So scale it back. Oh, that's vertical. My bad. For mine, I think I did it like 300 points less if you're a numbers person, but you can do it by sight. And then we will play to see if the motion is to our liking, it's too slow, too fast. I kind of like this speed, so we'll go there. And this is where it gets a little nitpicky. Zoom way, way, way in. Offset text, cut off the very very beginning, not even like half a second. It just helps with the illusion. And then where your Premiere Pro is set up differently. This is throwing me off. Where do you have like defined transitions on your screen? Where do you put
Go
the transitions?
To, effects down there, bottom left. There you go, effects. And then whether you're looking to video transitions.
Okay,
I'll set it up next time for you better.
thank you. I like it on the right. Okay, and see, add a dissolve on the text, add a dissolve on the square, end, oh no. Okay, and then we're gonna play this and see how it moves. A lot of it is just kind of adjusting to personal preference. There we have Ethel.
There you go, Mike. Lamont, you want to do a guest lecture on capturing those still frames?
See if I remember.
Freeze frames.
I'm not doing
Yeah.
All right.
it. I'm 90% sure I know how to do it. All right, so we're gonna walk through this together because it's a learning experience for all of us. So
Yeah, 1 minute.
I had to figure out this. I look it up, so I'm pretty sure I remember how to do it. If I don't do it the first time correctly, then I'll just tell you I'll look it up. But this is how you do it. So
You got that idea from roughly out.
That guy down had the man. Go find it yourself.
All right, so say like, for example, let's just pretend like they're in the air right there instead of just on top of this little ramp. So you double click on it and to bring up this menu, and then you go down to add frame hold. And then this gives you like, this is where the frame hold is right here.
Which one?
It's, one second, I'll show you. I'm trying to, is it okay if I move these around?
There you go, buddy.
Can I delete this too so make it easier? Are you, because it's, okay. It put me on the spot. I'm kind of nervous. A little. Did you put a slow motion on the video track one? It looked like it went in slow motion.
Potentially, yes. I'm sorry. You can re-drag it back on there if you go to media browser and just drag it on Fresh Replay. No.
Not waiting.
Or wait, I think you had to go to frame hold options. Okay, yeah, that's what it was. You had to go to frame hold options, and then you type in like, then you click OK. And then that's what will give you like the frame hold itself. And then, wait, I don't know why it stopped the whole video. Oh, okay. I did this in like December, so I'm sorry.
You're doing great, Juan.
Okay. Do you see you saw the video I was talking about? Okay. I think you had to like cut, what you had to do is like cut the frames. There's one, like I did for like a probate too. So what I did was cut the frame, and then what you want to do is cut the smallest amount as possible, because whenever you cut that small amount, it'll make it more even whenever it goes into the next video. Like I did kind of take a big chunk right here. You get real close together, and then it'll let you move this the playhead by notches. And then so you just cut that right there. And then you click on this little cut segment. Oh, I don't know how I just got that to pull up right there. Okay.
Sorry, Mike had a little warning.
And then y'all would have looked it up and made sure I was doing it correctly. This should be right. If it's not right, then I'll just go sit down. But it should be like this. Okay, do y'all see that? I'll make it bigger. Okay, so this is a review of what I had to do just now, if you weren't following. So you'll need to, okay, it is. So you need to cut, you'll need to zoom down to where you get as close as possible. In between this little notches, you just cut that little notch off. And then you want to highlight that notch, and then go down to frame hold options, and then click OK and make frame hold option. And this is what your like pause photo is. So then you can separate your video out, and then you can make the frame hold however short that you want it to be. Like this one's like 2 seconds, so it'll look like this. Like that.
All right, let's thank him on.
So you just
Can you slow a certain part down? If you cut it the way he did it, I don't know, but I think if you cut it and split that but keep it continuous, there may be a potential to slow down that middle part, then spread out the other, the third part, the last part of that clip, and it may go to normal speed, slow down, and then go. So that may work that way. I don't know if it will. All right, last thing.